Hi everybody, welcome to another update on the stock screener. Today we're going to talk about Prospera Energy because they just released earnings 8 hours ago. So the stock price has been moving higher. I think it's going higher. Okay. So the financials were released. We do not have any CDR documents yet, as you can see here. No 26 May. So we need to estimate what's going to happen next week, Tuesday or Monday. I'm not sure if TSX is open, but we don't have any CDR documents, so we need to go from this news release. It doesn't give a lot of data, but we do have the costs. We have transportation costs, we have operating costs for the year, so we can calculate or estimate the Q4 numbers. And here you can also see the assets, 35 million. It has gone up, but it doesn't say what the liabilities are. So assets went up, okay, that's not bad. So let's see, how are we going to do this? So let's estimate the BOE per day first. How much did they produce? We can actually calculate that because we know what the revenues are. These are the revenues for the year. 14 million Canadian dollars. We also know what the price is of WCS, and we know that it's almost all oil, so we can estimate the price that they will get. I think it's going to be 80, 74, 65, probably around 70, 70 to 74. So that's my estimate. So I used, yeah, let's take 73. And I think the BOEs per day is going to be 373. 373 net barrels per day. Because when I multiply it with 92 days, that's one quarter, the quarter 4, and I multiply with the 73 Canadian dollars, and I subtract 12% royalty. That's the royalty rate, I think. Then I get 2.2 million revenue for Q4. And that's exactly the number that I get here. That's the revenue minus royalty that I have here. Luckily, I have the data from the previous quarters. So these are the revenue minus royalty numbers. And then we know that Q4 is around 2.1 revenue minus royalty. How do I come to that number? I used 12 million as revenue minus royalty because that's what they have here. 13.9 minus royalty 1.8 gives me 12 million revenue minus royalty. So this is a correct number, 2.2 revenue minus royalty, and this is the same as this. So based on the oil price and royalties, then we get to 373 barrels per day equivalent. So I have added this here. That's in yellow because it's an estimate. Now let's look at this table. There are some green things here, because those are the numbers that we can find from the news releases. So for the full year, we have total cost of 42.8. That's given here. Total cost is 38.66 operating costs. This number plus transportation cost 4.14. Yes, and the sum of that is 42.8. So let's see if they have been able to reduce the costs. So I only take transportation operating costs. I want to see if those costs have come down. Now these numbers are from the previous quarters. We started first quarter 45, 52, and then 40. So let me show you one example of that. Let's say Q3. Q3, we had operating costs of 1.7 million for 484 barrels. So Q3, that's this 40.07. Actually, they even tell us that it's 40.07. Look at this, 40.07 costs. And that is the same as this number divided by 484. 1766191 divided by 484. And of course, per day, and there were maybe 92 days. So we get this 40.07, right? Or is it 91 days? Okay, 91 days, and then yeah, in the third quarter we have 91 days, so 40.1. So it matches. So we know that these numbers are correct. These numbers are correct. So let's continue. These are the net barrels per day for the quarters. So that's these numbers, and we have them as well. I put them here. So these are correct. And then we can actually calculate the cost per quarter. For example, this one is the cost per barrel multiplied by barrels per day, multiplied by the amount of days in those quarters. So this is these are the costs per quarter, right? That's just this times the amount of days in the quarter. Okay. Then we continue further to this number. That's the Q4 number. And how do we calculate that? That's the yearly costs minus the other numbers, other quarters. And where did I get these numbers? So that's the yearly cost numbers. So those numbers are 6,600,000, right? And we got that from the news release of yesterday. 600,000 and 6 million. 600,000 and 6 million minus these quarterly costs. So you can see that the costs in Q4 were lower. So here we had 2 million, 1.7 million, 1.8 million, and now 1 million. I like this number. Lower costs in Q4. Operating and transportation costs. So it's looking very good. We already have these numbers. We have these numbers and these numbers. So now we calculate the cost in Q4. I think it should be 33 because, and this is the calculation. So we know that the total cost was 42.8. We got that from here. 4.14 plus 38.66 is the 42.8. Now we need to match this number by looking at all the quarters. So how do I do this? I do this multiplied by this plus this times this plus this times this plus this. And that's this here, divided by 4 for the average, and divided by the average barrels per day from these here. So I think this is the formula to use to calculate the costs in Q4. And that number should be 33.14 because then this number here matches this number, right? 42.8. So that's what I did. This should be 33.14 estimate. And based on this, as we assume that the transport costs stay the same at 4.14, and that this 4.14, I assume that it's about the same for all quarters. Of course, it's not true, but let's do that. Then we have an operating cost for Q4 of below $30. That's a very good number. As you can see, the costs went from 40, 50, 35 to 30. The company is doing well. It's reducing costs. Okay, the production went down as well, but it went back up now in April. As you know, with my previous video, the production went up in April and probably also in May. So we are actually moving down in costs and production is going to go higher. And horizontal wells are also coming in the summer. So it's looking very good. This video was to confirm that costs are coming down. And that's, I think, the evidence is right here. I have shown you how I calculated it and the costs are down. So I think that's the thing that we need to keep in mind now on Prospera Energy, and it's looking good. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.